history is about teaching us as a people that we're at war.
I want to speak about the image of our people. We have to be protective of our image.
Our ancestors, they were oppressed, and we are oppressed today.
Hotel. Uncle Jah Seneb. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Jah
and Kev show. Walaikum assalam, brother. All right, you ready for this show?
I'm ready for this show, Kev. But I got to ask you something before we get going, because we're going to be talking about understanding the role of Black history. So we got to lay the cards on the table right at the outset. Understanding the role of Black history. But you got something you want me to hear. I understand.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna play something for you and the audience.
Okay,
and we're gonna discuss this for a second.
Okay.
And this is off of
Black History Month. You find
ridiculous.
Why?
You're going to relegate my history to a month?
Oh, come on.
What do you do with yours? Which month is White History Month? Well, come on, tell me.
Well, I'm Jewish.
Okay, which month is Jewish History Month?
There isn't one.
Oh, why not?
Yeah.
Do you want one?
No.
I don't either. I don't want a Black History Month. Black history is American history. Stop talking about it. I'm going to stop calling you a white man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to stop calling me a Black man. I know you as Mike Wallace. You know me as Morgan Freeman.
All right.
Kev, I got to say this, man. Can I say three words, and I'll let you have it, because I know that's need to discuss in a serious manner. But that was trash.
Yeah,
that was trash.
It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you would think someone like Morgan Freeman of that stature would have a better understanding of Black history, Black History Month.
Right.
But I'm going to say this. This is how I see that.
Okay.
You have perception and preception. Perception versus perception. Perception is the senses, our sight, sound, smell, touch, things like that. And you have cognitive perception, which means what you study and what you know. The word preception, on the other hand, sounds similar, but preception, when you draw a conclusion without conclusive information or evidence. This is a classic example of preception.
Yes, sir.
And we see this with our people a lot.
Yes, we do.
And people say, well, why they gave us the shortest month? February is the shortest month of the year. Of course, that's going to be Black History Month. Or why do we need a Black History Month? Like we heard him say. So everything that he said was said and sounded like someone speaking out of ignorance, without the information, drawing a conclusion. And even at the end, when he said about racism, this is Mike Wallace telling him about racism. And he said, how do we combat racism? He said, by not talking about it.
Wow. That's
crazy. That's just like, so we're going to put our head in the sand like an ostrich and racism is just going to disappear. It's just that simple. Morgan Freeman just solved racism, the problem that Black people have around the world with racism. Just stop talking about it.
Wow. You see, Kev, that's a problem. It's very problematic because, number one, Morgan Freeman, he echoes the sentiment of many people. I've been reading online all week, people saying I'm Black forever, 365 days. But hell, that's not the context. We're Black only in the month of February. But when you understand and overstand the context, you will see that we cannot be like Europeans. You know, they never called their history White History Month, but we get it 365 days a year, especially in school. And so Morgan Freeman is trying to be like a European when he says we don't need a Black History Month. Well, we do need, because of our context, because of things that gets me up in the ear, because like you mentioned earlier, he should know better. I know he's been through racism. I know he's been through the fire. I know he's been through a lot, but he echoes the sentiment of many of us because of our ignorance. And so I've heard some of the conscious people even say that. Why do they have to have Black history? Well, it's because in 1906, if you know the history behind where it came from and how it started, we were not being taught anything about ourselves. So they came up with this idea that, hey, we need to celebrate who we are as a people as well, to give us pride, to give us identity, to give us dignity, because we weren't talking about that. And so now in 1972, it went from Black History Week to Black History Month. And many of us still don't know the context to why we do this. That's why you see this ignorant stuff about I'm Black 365 days a year. Damn it, we're not saying you're not Black 365 days a year, but what we are saying is we are to celebrate who we are because of the racist tendencies and ideologies and philosophy that have put us down and beat us down all of our lives. And most of us should have something to say about that.
Right. And when people speak like that, like I said, that's perception. You don't have the facts. You don't understand what you're talking about, and you're drawing a conclusion. No one, like you said, no one's saying you're not Black all the time. If you're Black 365 years, just study Black history 365 years. But what we're saying is we're going to set apart, or this is what Carter G. Woodson said, we're going to set apart a week for our people to celebrate our achievements. Now, if you take yourself back, like you was talking about the context, at that time frame, we haven't been long out of slavery, 2 generations maybe out of slavery. During slavery, we didn't even know some of the things that we were achieving, because it wasn't like somebody sent a newsletter and said, hey man, you know that this person did this, and this person, this Black person invented this and that. No, in fact, they were still in their designs and stuff.
Exactly.
No one knew all the great achievements that we had done, that we should be celebrating, because this was a time frame coming out of a time they downgraded us. They told us we came from nothing. They told us we was able to do nothing, and we were about nothing. And this is a chance to learn that you did some great things, that this country was thriving off.
That's right. This all has to do with the study of who we are. And you have to study this, because when people look at us as a people, you mentioned it earlier, we were not only put down, we were castrated, we were belittled, we were denigrated. All those negative terms were being put up on us as a people. And right now, we should be marveling at the fact and the idea that we can take this information and share it with people, because Black History Month is very important to us as a people, and we should be excited about it, you see, because I'm going to tell you this, Kevin, you may not believe this, but I'm going to tell you something that may knock your socks off of you. And that's this. Many of us people who say that, this crap about we shouldn't be celebrating Black history, you know, we're Black 365, they gave us the shortest month of the year. Then I ask you, damn it, what about your children? What do your children know about who they are? And the answer is probably little to nothing, because if you're not talking about it, if you don't want to talk about it, you can't be telling that, and we have to address that today.
It's sad when you hear someone of Morgan's stature talk like that. And like you said, many of us echo those same sentiments. And I remember coming up in the public school system in New York State. They had Black History Month. I think it was still a month that reached a month at that time. And Budweiser would put up these little signs, and our teacher would post them up, and it was like, and it had Nubian King, and we thought it was great, and Black people probably thought this was great, but actually that's not what Black History Month was about. Black History Month has nothing to do with Africa. Black History Month in America has something only to do with the African American achievements in this country, or our history in this country. So when people say our history is too vast to be going, you know, okay, you're talking about African history. This is Black history, and it's meant to be African American history. Point blank. Canada has African American History Month. Germany has African American History Month. It's other countries around the world that celebrate or has an acknowledgement of the history of the Black slave or enslaved people, the history of their people that was there. So why do we think that, or somebody gave this to us?
I'm going to tell you why we think that. We think that because many of us have low self-esteem. You see, we don't care who we are because we have been told for so many years we're nothing, and we actually believe that. So when we believe we're nothing, we don't know how to celebrate. When you mentioned before the broadcast some of the names you threw out, some of the things we post on social media, we're educating, we're teaching. Be excited about it, especially if you look like us, it up on the backs of our ancestors, and we're talking about those who were enslaved by Europeans during that time. So we have to keep things in context, and this is why they always say our history goes beyond the United States. Well, we know that, But in the United States, we don't want to look at the context, man. And that's the problem that we seem to have with these rappers, with these entertainers, with these athletes, with these movie stars, with these Negroes all in houses and things. And I know I'm off the chain today, but this is a subject that's dear to both of our hearts. And we have to expose the hypocrisy when people are going to put us down and tell us that we shouldn't open our mouths about something that is great as our people. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't even be here doing what we're doing today.
And I believe you said that was in 1926, right? About 100 years before that, 105 years before that, Onesimus, an enslaved African,
teach, Kev, teach,
came up with the inoculation, came up with what we consider vaccinations and things like that. That was an African slave. And he helped America get out of a massive, great pandemic.
Okay.
At the time, he told his master at that time, people were dying in Massachusetts.
Okay.
Like by the load. He came up and he told his master, he had a scar. He told his master, I'm not worried about that. I got a scar. And his master at that time told him, don't talk that voodoo stuff to me. What are you talking? Was telling him, no, my people in Africa, we would cut ourselves and put smallpox or whatever it is that's killing. You'll put a small doses of it in your wound, and then your body will build up an immunity.
I got you.
So we coming off a great pandemic of this COVID and all this stuff, and nobody is mentioning this guy.
Wow.
They took his the slave master told his friend, which was a doctor, about what his slave told him. His friend became the father of medicine. He took that information and said, you know what, maybe it is something to this.
Wow.
And he was able to what they call cure smallpox in America.
Wow.
To where 1 in 6 people was dying. And now it jumped to like 1 in 12. He saved this information saved life. This is 105 years before Carter G. Woodson said we need to acknowledge our history and our achievements in this country, and not just our achievements, but the things that has happened to us.
Right.
Because we were a people that were walking around ignorant of our greatness and our excellence.
That's right.
So this is a time for us to acknowledge our excellence and greatness, and to have someone coming years, centuries later, talking about he don't want it.
And he benefited from it. And see, Kev, what you just did was a great illustration of what Black History Month is all about. For those who didn't know that, and myself included, basically what you did was just demonstrate the importance of Black History Month. You just taught us something that many of us never heard of. And so what am I saying? I'm saying that you raised the awareness of myself and others who hadn't heard that. And that's what Black History Month is all about. It's raising a cognitive awareness of what we are as a people, and not only how great we are, but everything we've been through, the struggles, the strife, everything good, everything bad, and everything in between in the United States of America. And we've got to be able to put things in its perspective. And this is why our awareness needs to be raised, because many of us don't know these things, and we don't want to know these things. So I'm saying we must continue to uplift those of us who have helped make this country the greatest country in the world. And I'm talking about because of our blood, because of our sweat, because of our tears, because of our equity, because of everything that we've given to this country. And I'm not going to sit back and belittle anything they did. When I tell you about Richard Shipp and Abram Smith, people say, well, I don't know who they are. Well, these are the ones who were hung in Indiana. We see them often on the internet. We see them hung, and white people all around them laughing and celebrating. See, we don't want to look at them as heroes, you see. We rather look at just some of us. But we have to look at the whole package, man.
The martyrs, those were martyrs.
Exactly.
And they should be known. They should, and it's like I say, it's not just glorification of our excellence, but knowing our journey here, knowing what we go through. Like you brought up to kids, you brought up self-esteem. They stripped us of our self-esteem by lying to us about our history. And you hear these celebrities say, well, I ain't got nothing to do with Africa. Don't call me an African American, Smokey Robinson. So didn't he say, I ain't got nothing to do with Africa. You don't understand the wealth of where you come from. If you don't know where you come from, you don't know who you are. And then you relegate yourself to just being something that came from slaves.
Right, right.
And you thinking you made a great achievement when we're far behind what we were still to this day. And
That's
if you don't understand the history of what you've gone through, this is how you talk about kids. If they look around and they see our conditions,
right,
there's a reason that we are in
Yes,
these
sir.
conditions. You have to teach them and help them to understand. It's reasons why people look down on us today, on white kids and other people from other backgrounds, because they don't know the history of what we've been through. And if they understood what we've been through, then they would look at us and say, damn, y'all been through a lot and y'all have persevered.
And how dumb can a man be when we talk about people with that set? I'm not calling Smokey Robinson dumb, but the concept of what he's saying and others, that's dumb. And so what I'm saying is, if you take him, he can say all he wants to where he's not from. But if you take his mama, you go back, you're going to find the linkage. But what we're saying is that linkage didn't just start there. It continued to where we are. If you live in Brazil, wherever you live, there's a cultural connection that we have a special case. And this is why when we talked about reparations, we caught a lot of flack. Because everybody want to include all these people that come here, Johnny come lately, but they weren't here doing slavery. They weren't here doing the rapings. They weren't here doing the lynchings. They weren't here doing the mass incarceration. So they just come over here now and they want to tell you and I, we shouldn't talk like this when we're saying we're going to lift up our people in spite of what has happened to us, because that's where our identity comes from. That's where our cultural history comes from, because we get to explain to them that we have always been a great people. See, when we talk about ancient Africa, we talk about the pyramids and all the things that happened over there, those were great feats. But that is not the only thing that we've done. We have always been a great people. Wherever we've gone, Kev, we've done things that people need to marvel at and quit trying to put us down and belittle us because of their own ignorance, because of what they don't know and haven't studied.
It's within us. And you will see that it is within us. When we talk about Claudette Colvin, right? Now, Claudette Colvin, being a 15-year-old teenager, was going in high school, going over the Constitution in class and the rights of Americans. This was on her mind when she was on a bus and they was telling her to get up and give up her seat to a white person got on the bus.
You mean Rosa Parks didn't go first?
Now that's the tragedy of it, because that's what they teach us in Black history.
I got you.
But that's when you allow other people to teach you your history.
Keep teaching.
They're going to give you something, or they're going to give you what they want you to have. We let them commandeer our history because we neglect it. You know, this is our time to take the grasp of our history and say, this is what happened to us. Don't listen to Budweiser telling us this. And they may have meant good or whatever, but they were off tilt because it wasn't about what happened in Africa and all this stuff like that. And it wasn't just about Martin Luther King and Frederick Douglass and things like that. Claudette Colvin's story. We took that. Now, us, you brought up Rosa Parks. They staged Rosa Parks in this. She was a much older woman. She was the secretary for the NAACP. She had she was actually looking at legal cases for them. So she had been there, and she was that poster child. This is that image that we really want, because we don't want. And if the young people understood what was the start of the Birmingham boycott, was a young teenager that all these adults was doing what they were told, and this young teenager say, no, this is not right. I'm going to stand up. And they drug her off that bus. The police, the bus driver pulled over. He got up and said, you need to get up. And she said, no, I have a right. And he called the police and said, we got a problem with a 15-year-old, not this 30-year-old dude, not this 38-year-old woman, not this, nobody else, but just 15-year-old teenager. That would teach our kids, if they knew that story, that, you know what, I can do something that even if the adults are not doing. I could start a movement. That started the whole movement. They say that's the start of the civil rights movement. But see, that's hidden in history. When I asked what's that, Alexis or something like that, Alexa, I asked her about Claudette Colvin. She said, well, it's some historians claim, and if you do that, ask, and well, no, that's not what they claim. That's what really happened. Right.
A lot of people may watch this broadcast today, and we appreciate you attending this broadcast, the Jah and Kev show. And you notice that Kev and I, we both are really passionate about this subject. We're passionate about all subjects we do on this broadcast. But you can see we both jumping today. We're popping like popcorn because we want you to know this broadcast should serve as an inspiration. You see, this should get you excited to see two African Americans, two brothers who are not afraid to tell the truth about our history, who's not going to sugarcoat it to make you feel good, or who's not going to kowtow because somebody paid them to say what they want them to say so they can get grease their pockets. So you should be excited because this broadcast is an inspiration. Black History Month should be an inspiration. You should be jumping out your seats today because we're willing to tell the truth about the importance of it, as opposed to minimizing it and making it seem like this was just something that happened and we should talk about a couple of people and leave it as such, because this inspiration is going to serve, as you mentioned earlier, to the future. Our children, many of them don't know anything. They're not teaching it in school. We get that. Then why are we not teaching it at home? And if you're Black 365, as we often say, then how many of those days in the year are we sitting our children down, turning the TV off, turning the music off, taking away social media, and talking about people like you said, Annie Malone, Claudette Colvin, Ida B. Wells, and people who really did something for this country to make us sit in a position we're in. And that's why I get excited and passionate about this subject. Brother.
Yeah, because we keep regurgitating the same people. You know, the same 5 or 6 people and say this is Black history. and actually, we have a plethora of history that we need to go over, and we need to emphasize and look at it and acknowledge and even the bad that has happened to us. Because see, they don't want, if you allowing them to teach you your history or tell you what Black history should, or who should be in Black history, they're not going to take out, they're going to take out their part, that they the atrocities. They're not going to tell you about Mary Turner or anybody like that. They're going to take, because it shines a bad light on them. And this is what this country is going through, denial of what has happened and what they've done. So when you have these people coming over here trying to tell Black people how they need to correct themselves and what's wrong with them, and how they act, and how we act over here in this other country, and how we have this, like we heard this in the reparation thing. Well, I hate to say it, but the immigrants that come over here, talking about the Black immigrants, they work harder than the Africans here, or the Black people here. And we heard this from 3 or 4 people, at least 3 people.
Exactly.
Oh, I hate to say it, but y'all haven't been through what we've been through here. When y'all come here, y'all are given another key that we don't have. So understand, if you come over here, understand what you're getting into and who's around you and what they've been through before you want to pass judgment on them. That's perception. You don't have the facts. You don't have the information, and you coming up with a conclusion.
This is why I like rocking with you, man, because it's all about, when people come with that attitude, even at the reparations discussion, we check them people. But a Negro would sit there and kowtow and agree with them because they're afraid of them. I don't care where you from. If you come over here for another country, you owe our ancestors because of what they did for you and for me and for everybody else that stepped foot on this American soil. So you owe them. You are indebted to them. And if you're not talking about this like this, and you let them come over here and belittle us and push us to the back, then shame on you. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. Your children ought to be ashamed of themselves because you didn't teach them that we are the cream of the crop. We didn't say we're better or worse. We're saying, culturally speaking, we laid the foundation for you to bring your you-know-what over here and do whatever you do. You're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a specialist, and you're from India, you're from Mexico, you're from the continent, you just came lately, and now you're servicing us, and you're going to look down on us. That will not happen as long as I'm living. That's
a lack of knowledge of our history and understanding, and many of us have that lack of information.
Well, why is that so, Kev? Why is that?
What did Morgan say? What did Morgan say? He said, why do we have to have a Black history?
Okay.
Why do we have to have? Because they stripped us of our self-esteem.
Yes, sir.
And we have persevered regardless of no matter what we've been through.
Teach, man.
We kept pushing and doing things that elevated this country and elevated everyone around us in this country to a higher status.
Yes, sir.
And we didn't get the recognition for what we've done.
Exactly.
They stole patents from us. Cars driving around. You see a kid, you should be like, you see that? You see this car? You know why they're able to do this?
Right.
Somebody invented the spark plug. You know, them chips you eating, you know, somebody invented that. The AC that you enjoying, somebody had the refrigeration,
all of it.
Somebody did that so that you can enjoy this. The alarm system, so that your house is safe or you feel safe at night. A Black person did that. Wow. You know what I'm saying? Wow. So that transforms into your car, everything else, every alarm system, everything that happens so that the prisoners can't get out of prison.
Right.
And it's alarm that's going to go off.
Right.
You owe that to us.
Right. Your cell phone, everything. We're going to say this now because I know there may be someone out there that says, I want to get in on this. I definitely want to get in on this. The number to call is 361-405-6111. I'll repeat, 361-405-6111. Because if you look like Kev and I, if you know your history, then be willing to discuss the importance of Black History Month, and you should not be ashamed to. You shouldn't be talking like a baby. You should be telling the world, I'm proud of who I am. You see, I have no business. Back in the day, we used to have to walk across the street when a white person walked on the same street, was hold your head down. You couldn't look at a white woman.
Yeah, you had to get off the sidewalk.
Get off of this thing. But now we're saying that we want to acknowledge our struggles, our failures, our challenges that we faced back then, and the ones we still face today, you see, because the work is not done, but we're saying this is a part of our journey. And how dare we be on a broadcast and not express to the people the importance of Black History Month then and whenever it comes up, and how we should encourage people to get excited about it, Kev. Get real excited about it.
So what did Morgan say? So why do we have a Black History Month? And why don't you have one? He said, Mike Wallace, 60 Minutes. This was a 60 Minutes. And Mike Wallace said, well, actually, I'm Jewish. So why you don't have a Jew? They don't need to have one. The same thing didn't happen to them.
Exactly. They
have
have it every day.
That's the simplest. They have, they know their history.
Exactly.
Their history is subtle. We learned about Anne Frank, and it didn't even happen here in America. That's 5,000 miles away from here. And it's atrocities that happens to our people and kids and girls getting bombed in churches and people getting hung and pregnant women being hung and stuff like that. But we're learning about their history. We're learning about what happened to the Jews. We're learning white history is. We don't need a white history. You're gonna get it. That conversation that he was having, it reeks of ignorance. It reeks of ignorance. Well, why you don't have one? Well, damn it, we don't even have one because we're allowing somebody else to teach us our history.
There you go.
Take control of our history. Teach out our history. Learn our history. Before you teach, you got to learn.
There you go.
And I'm nobody in this in America, Black person in America, is at that pedestal where they don't learn anything about our history. We are finding out things because things have been hidden. You could get all the books you want, and it's still going to be stories that's not in the books. So you should always be a student of your history, and then relay it to other people. Hey, did you know this? And mainly, and even if it's adults, did you know this? Did you know this? Did you hear about this? Look it up. If somebody's telling you something, look it up, and then say, man, you know what? I read about that now. Then they could pass it on to their kids, because a lot of people are not able to teach their kids 365 because they don't know something 6.
Exactly.
They don't know. They can't discuss Black history for 6 days.
Yeah, that's
for
true,
6 hours.
Yeah, that's true. And see, this is a time that we're talking about where people who study Black history, we will be able to African American history, we will be able to reflect on what has happened. See, and this is what we don't do often as a people. We don't reflect. We just want to go grab a blunt, go grab some dope, go grab some beer, go grab some wine and celebrate. But we don't know what the hell we're celebrating, you see.
In our youth, they think in our culture is hip hop or R&B or this latest dance and stuff like that.
Not
because they're cut off from the history, the rich history of our people. And things that happen. Like, we didn't just cow down, like you say. You know, we had people that stood up. We had Nat Turner. And we always throw around that term. It was a lot of revolutions and slave rebellions and things like that. It's always the reflection, but then when you're done reflecting, there must be dialogue, Kev. I can see that you have reflected on many of these people that you talk about, because this isn't just something that you study for the broadcast. This is something that you do every day, which is good. So now that it's time to talk about it, you're able to have dialogue. How many people can we say that we can truly sit down with, African Americans or people that look like us, and have a serious conversation about Black history? It's not that many, because like you mentioned earlier, many of us don't have the discipline. We don't have the guts. We don't have the courage to dig deep and to bring out those nuggets and truths as to what happened to us and how we can push the needle forward to help us, because there's still a lot of work to be done. But a lot of our ancestors, they've laid the foundation, and because we're ignoring what you and I are talking about, or we're waiting till February to wear dashikis only, you see, them the type that they don't seem to take advantage of what our ancestors did for them. And so Black history is a very important part in our lives. And the role of Black history is important because we also have to look at
where did we go wrong in some of the things we've done? See, this is another discussion we don't like to talk about. What did we do? And I know one of the things that you probably would love to tear, and I'll open it up and let you jump in there, but a lot of the things that we did was wrong. But one of the things that we did was all those snitches, you know, all those yes men and yes women who went and told on somebody who wanted to free or to get free or to do something that was going to help a group of people, like Nat Turner, Denmark VC, even when it comes to Fred Hampton, all these Negroes that were planted, they still here, Kev. Don't think they're gone, man.
And this is why I pitched a fuss. How about that? I pitched a fuss over Spike Lee's movie, you know, about Ron Stallworth, you know, the Black Klansman. And because I know who this person was, I know he was an informant.
Right.
And you celebrating him and putting him on the silver screen, and people going there and say, yeah, but it was a good money. It was a good movie. It's funny. And I'm like, no, those people had our heroes murdered.
Right.
They were the reason that they were infiltrating the Black Panther Party. They infiltrated the Ku Klux Klan, but nothing happened to them.
Right.
So what? He got a card. That was great. A black man got a card in the Ku Klux Klan, and they didn't know. But what about the people that they murdered in the Black Panther Party because of these black informants? So people were telling me, man, you taking things too serious. Them killing our heroes is serious. You know what I'm saying? Them stopping our movements and people fighting for our freedoms is serious. So don't put them on a pedestal and say, well, this guy did this and he was one of them. He was one of them informants.
Yeah. And then the lesson I'm learning about is a snitch is no good. A snitch is rotten to the core. You don't have time to be telling on us about the positive things we're doing. You should be trying to join ranks with us, but because your mind is screwed up, because that's all you know, you want $1, see, because most of them, they paid them off, you see. They infiltrated the Nation of Islam. And I argue with brothers all the time. Well, it was black men that pulled the trigger. Well, man, don't you realize that they can make people kill you, Kev. They can make people kill me. All you got to do is pay them. And if the price is right, they may look like us, but they'll do anything because this was an operation that was a cohesion with the government and people who wanted to get paid or people that was used, you see. And a lot of times we don't want to talk about this part of Black History Month because all of the things we're talking about, there's a lot of other facets to it, and we don't like to get into it because we don't know about it. But there's been many snitches, man. There's been many informants that have sold us out, and we're still making strides in spite of all of that.
And some of them don't even know they're selling us out because what did Carter G. Woodson say? The one that started Black History Week. He said, if you train a man, you know what I'm saying? If you train a man, you don't have to worry about his action. You're gonna know what he's gonna do and where he's gonna be. I'm paraphrasing. This is basically what he's saying. If you train him, he's gonna be where he's supposed to be and do what he's supposed to do. And they have trained us very well.
Yes, they have.
Even Morgan Freeman. What did he say? Now I'm gonna say this. This is out of ignorance. Like I say, some of them doing it out of ignorance. He said Black History Month was ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Us learning about our achievements in this country is ridiculous. Right?
Wow.
Then what did he say at the end? He said, so how do we end? Mike Wallace said, well, how do you end racism? He said, just don't talk about it.
That's stupid.
Just don't talk about it. That's how we can stop breast cancer, right?
That's
just breast cancer will end because if we just stop talking, take away breast cancer. Stop doing it. Stop doing it because then if we stop doing it, it's going to just.
Oh man, that's egregious, man.
And that's how. And then what did he say? He say, "Don't call me black."
Yes, he did. Yeah, and a lot of people don't like
I'm not gonna say. So he's denying his blackness. I remember Malcolm X said something to Baldwin when in the discussion. He said, "Why is it that black people are the only ones interested in not being black?" The Jewish person, Mike Wallace said, "Well, actually, I'm Jewish."
He did. He was proud of that.
Yeah. And we the only ones. Don't call me black. Don't call me, an African. This and we talk negatively about African and this and this because we've been trying to do what we're doing and to be what we're supposed to be.
And man, I'm telling you, I'm so glad you said that because there's a book by Carter G. Woodson called "The Miseducation of the Negro." I would recommend that everyone get that book. It's a small book, but he talks about how people like us who start off with the right intentions end up going astray because they have been miseducated, you see. So they see us all the same way because they don't know how to look at Black history and see that we had to maneuver through this thing, Kev. It wasn't easy, man. So we're not trying to paint a picture that everything was rosy. We're saying you take it for what it's worth. You learn from it. You take the good and you apply it. The bad, you kick it out, but you don't throw everything out because it's not supposed to be thrown out. You're supposed to be studying. That's what when they came up in the 1926 Carnegie Wisdom, it was a study group they had. It was in Chicago, I believe. It's at a YMCA. And this was how serious they were. They had to go to a YMCA to study, a group of men and women who said, my history is so important to me. We're going to meet and we're going to make sure that those who come behind us will study to know who they are. And now we who've come behind them, we look at this thing and say, I don't want it.
Instead of, see, what happened, it came out as a week, right? And then it expanded to a month, right? And now we want to shrink it back to a minute, you know, and it should keep expanding. You know, that's what it should do. It should keep expanding, but we want to choke it. We want to get rid of it. I don't need it.
Right.
You don't have it. They don't need it. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Don't call me black.
Wow.
You should be one. He's a product of not knowing black history, because if you knew your black history, you would wear that like a badge. You would want,
it's an honor.
That's an honor to say that. I'm a black man, right? Because I know where I come from.
Teach, Kev.
And then, but no, you're a product of something, and you saying you showing it because you telling them don't call me black, and then you want to get rid of black history.
Wow, y'all
when
see?
These kids will be, if they learn their history, the self-esteem problems that we have in our community. And what we talk about in these kids, that's cured. That'll be cured.
Y'all see, that's why I don't like to do shows with this brother, man. When he get going, he loves this baby. He's been talking to me off and on ever since I met him. This is not something we just conjured up for the show. But see, he loves this kind of stuff. He thrives. This drives him, and it should drive all of us, because you should be proud of who you are. I'm tired of us holding our heads down, Kev, when it's time to talk like we're talking now about who we are. You get a group of people together and you want to have a celebration, you'll be surprised how soft many people talk if other people are there. You'd be surprised how many people tiptoe around because there are some Europeans, or there are some Germans, or there's some Asians, or there's some Latinos, because we're ashamed of who we are. That goes back to self-esteem. What Black history teaches you, as James Brown said, say it loud. And we don't want that kind of discussion, because we rather watch things on TV from these producers that are African-American who misconstrue the data. And then we start looking at what they showed us, as opposed to, like you're saying, digging deeper than that. And seeing that this man was a detriment to us, but you're celebrating him as if he was a black when he was nothing but a sellout.
A snitch. Basically, like you said, a snitch. And I'm gonna welcome some of y'all that showed up on Facebook. Aisha, I appreciate you. And Marie, I appreciate you, sister. And Barbara and Sakina, walaikum assalam, sister. And Drea, I appreciate you showing up. And William, walaikum assalam, brother. And Barbara said, James Brown said it best. You know, that was your intro. She said, I'm black and which say what they will about us negatively, but we built this country that is now theirs, yet we call it ends and most hate it. They robbed us of it, slaved our ancestors. Great topic, brothers. I appreciate the comments. And Ladae, I appreciate you showing up. She said, I love it. You brothers speaking history, black history. I appreciate that. And Hosea said, good teaching. I appreciate that.
Can I get a commercial in, Kev, right quick? A quick commercial, maybe a couple minutes, and we'll go back to the topic. This is a great broadcast. On March the 9th at 9:00 a.m. at the Southside Lions Club Park at 4600 Pecan Valley, Liberation Academy is doing what is called a walkathon to raise money for our school. It's called Education on the Move. If anybody's interested in being an ambassador or even coming out and walk, the pledge minimum is $15, but you can pledge as much as you like. But you can call 210-317-4575. That's my number. And I can go into more details, but it's basically a walkathon where you show up, you fill out the registration form, and you pledge what you're going to pledge. You can pay it by way of Cash App. You can pay it by way of cash. You can pay it by way of check. You can pay it by way of credit card. But we're going to be there because we need to extend our educational process with our children and get things for them that they actually need. So it's a walkathon, March the 9th. It's the second Saturday at 9:00. I don't know how much more simpler I can make it, but we want you to come out and join us for a great cause. And so that's the commercial. that we're going to say today on this broadcast. We got other things coming up. Even Kev got something in September that's huge, but I ain't gonna let the cat out the bag now. He got something in September that's monumental. But back to the subject at hand. Black history, Kev, the excitement that I see in your eyes when you talk about this. I know you believe this. I don't, and I'm not necessarily looking for excitement everywhere I go. But Kev, in many instances, it's dead until it's dead, man. And then even in February, it's basically the run of the mill. Well, it's February month, so let's wear dashikis, or let's talk about some words. And then when that month is over with, it's back in the saddle again.
It should be so many events that should be going on in every city in America.
Right.
There should be so many. And here we are, we're in San Antonio. The biggest things that happen here in San Antonio.
We had the biggest march with the Martin Luther King March.
Martin Luther King March.
Black history.
Yeah, that's Black history. And that's become more so like a participation thing.
Right.
But I'm not knocking that. That's cool.
I got you.
But is the biggest thing that happens here. You have the MLK March, you have fiesta time. And that's for mainly the Hispanic things. And that's lasts for like, I believe, a week or two or something like that. I don't participate in a lot of that stuff. But Black History Month, we have it's some things that happen here.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not gonna act like it's nothing that's going on. But those events should be so big that they should be like the Martin Luther King Day March for all of these events that we have, because this is a time for Black people to bond. This is an issue that we have. Everybody that complains about things that's happening in our community, one thing they say, we don't have unity, right? We don't spend with each other. This is an opportunity for us to be someplace together continuously and seeing each other and showing love for each other and to each other and spending money with each other. And this would solve a lot of our problems. Bring your kids to these events.
That's what I was going to say.
Bring your kids to these events. Let them see Black people and groups and everything where it's not violence going on. It's not nothing like that.
Yeah, nothing but positivity.
Yeah, positivity.
And Kev, that was great that you said at the end, because you took the words out of my mouth when it comes to the children. Many of us, we may say, and honestly speaking, I don't know much about Black history. And that's fine, because we all have to start. But if we're willing to acknowledge that, then take our children and ourselves to institutions or to places that's going to hold something that's going to be teaching, so that we can all learn together, you see. So don't just stay at home and gripe and complain and murmur about it when we're not doing anything, because like you said, we should even start things. We can even start a Black history celebration where we just get people together, and all we're going to do is talk about some subjects when it comes to Black History Month and how we have thrived in certain areas and maybe what we need to work at to do better, and so forth and so on. So we should be able to have that much wherewithal to make that happen, Kev. And I think that Black History Month is so vital, and we have to love ourselves so much that we speak with such passion that people can say, them brothers love what they're doing, you see, because we don't always get this excited depending on the subject matter, you see. But this one is dear to our heart, man. And I'm telling people now, and I'm encouraging people, that we've got to stop this being lethargic, man, when it comes to something that is as important as Black history. Because I always say this, and I'll give it back to you, but I've often said this, and I believe it, Kev. We don't realize the sacrifices that were made for us. We take for granted what has happened in the past, and now we're walking, many of us, in the shoes of our ancestors, but we're not saying to them, thank you for all.
We're walking in their shoes, and we're trying to put some Jordans on instead. we want to get rid of them shoes. Like last show, I think we was talking about programs. Anybody could come up with a program, and I had ideas, and it wasn't just isolated for Black History Month, but it'd be a great thing for Black History Month. And I had presented it to some brothers that we know, and I was like, whoever your hero was, or whoever you want to be, thinking about Malcolm X or whoever, do some type of program where you have, okay, coming to the stage now is Malcolm X. This person dresses like Malcolm X. Coming to the stage now is Martin Luther King.
I got you.
And this person coming to the stage now is Ida B. Wells. Coming to the stage now is Claudette Colvin. And what you do, you assign, we say, hey, okay, you don't know much. I want you to be Claudette Colvin because you're a young girl. Let that person study up. And look at the videos of Claudette Colvin speaking and things. I think she had moved to New York City, and she has her story. She tells her story. She was forgotten, basically banished. The Black people, you see all this Rosa Parks stuff, and she was the one that actually had her feet on ground zero and got thrown in jail for doing this. Now, So okay, you're Claudette Colvin. So when the kids go out and to this assembly, this program that you have, and you could, this is something that you can go around to the schools and do.
Yeah.
This is something you could hold at the library
Yes,
and
sir.
say, or at some, and these people dress up like
In your own
them
house.
and tell
Yeah.
themselves and say, this is
Who
who
you
I
are.
am, and
Right.
this is what I did.
Mhm.
Or if you want to bring it to how they feel about today, this is I'm Malcolm X, and this is what I see today, and something like that. But you can expound on that. But I have to say, man, we should get together and do this, and you know, we have these ideas, but we got to make it come to fruition.
There you
and
go.
it's for us. And older people could come, kids can learn,
Right.
because a lot of older people don't know. And now somebody could say, well, man, I love Marcus Garvey. Okay,
Come on.
I need you to play Marcus Garvey.
Come on with
You
it.
know, and you could sit there and give a 30-minute you know, whole thing about your life and where you from and what you believe. You know, things like that. Think of stuff that you can do for Black history that's gonna help our history, as opposed to saying, I don't want it, we don't need it. Why?
Wow. Kev, we would be remiss today if I didn't bring this up. I'm thinking about one person in particular, but it's many people. So let's get that straight. Now, it wasn't just one person that I'm talking about, but I want to use the first word, which is the word I want to talk about, is resilience. The resiliency that our people had to withstand and come back time and time again. Everything they threw at us, we came back. It cost us a lot, but we're the only people that kept coming back. And the person I'm talking about, for example, is Ida B. Wells.
Right.
Here's a woman who was an editor, and she was talking about lynching. There were over 4,000 lynchings during a certain time in the early 1900s. And she was so brave, man, that she wrote about it. She even saw 3 of her friends who were businessmen get killed. And she moved from where she was, but you think she would have stopped after she saw that. What did she do? She went on to continue to record and report how abusive, how negligent, how terrible that was for Black men to be hung. And I think about the resiliency of many other of our brothers and sisters who were told, you better not say anything else. And they came right back with a brand new show. That's the kind of resiliency that got us to where we are today, Kev. And that's the resiliency that I'm proud to sit here with you to say, that's the resiliency that I'm tapping into. Right. Because they were told, you know, hey, you knew your life were at stake. You knew your family's life were at stake. But she kept on writing about the evils of lynching Black men. And today, a lot of us give a damn about what Ida B. Wells said and the resiliency that we're talking about.
And she has a book out, and it's in my library. It's called Lynchings, right? And when you start to read the story, she gave detailed accounts and eyewitness accounts of what was happening and why these people were being lynched, or the accusations that was made. And most of them was fabricated. You know, it's based on hate. Or I remember I started posting segments of the book for Black history, and I was like a lynching, and I put the lynching in there, an affair between a Black man and a white woman, and she basically turned on him and said, well, he was raping me or whatever. And they was having an affair. They was getting together. And then he asked her, and when we say lynching, we always thinking of hanging. But what sometimes lynching is basically just a public execution. So they burnt the guy, they poured tar, you know, and they put him on the stake, and they made her like, and he asked her, he said, you're going to do this. Like, basically, you're going to stick to this to save face, instead of saying that what you tell me in private is that you love me. You know, and but then she did it anyway. And then Ida B. Wells goes into, and the man started screaming. The lady lit the match and walked away. And it's like, these stories will tell you about our history and what has happened to us. And maybe it give you a different perspective. Like I was talking about in the beginning, cognitive perception and preception.
Wow.
So many of us talk on preception. We come up with conclusions without having conclusive evidence or facts of what we're talking about. And get those facts and evidence and get these books and learn about these people. Don't let somebody else just tell you. Many of us just look for some little special video, quick video about who this person was.
And Kel, what did the newspaper say in the Black communities, the little newspapers that we had? Every day, the topic and the headline was, a Black man was lynched today.
Right.
I mean, that is powerful, how we wanted people to know, man. And now we act like we're ashamed to say, because of these lynchings, This is what I'm here for today, to let you know that this cannot and will not go on in my life and other people's lives. And I'm here to fight for justice because we're still struggling. We know that. But this is a broadcast about Black history. But how can we learn from that? What can we do about that? We can make sure that you said earlier that there's a public lynching now. We can make sure that there's no public lynchings going on, because when they tell me, you know, Brooke Kev was doing this, Brooke Kev was doing that, well, I'm going to say, well, when I hear Brooke Kev teach, the things that he says to me was so powerful and truthful and helped me learn to be a better man. I don't care what you did. I want to know what you did for the community. And that's what I'm going to hold you to. Not that you did something silly like we all do when you look at our lives, because they talk about Bob Marley like that. And I regurgitate and want to throw up when I hear people tell me, well, you know, Bob Marley was a player. He had a lot of women and kids and all that. But he was one of the only men who would take music and utilize it before the rap game to show how systematically racist the whole world was. And damn it, you're going to talk about him because of his personal life. When I look in your life and my life, we ain't just as clean as we think we are.
Social consciousness.
I got art for
go ahead. Social consciousness. And I appreciate the passion. Teresa said, when you know better, you do better. And we have to know. I appreciate the comment. We have to let each other know. That's what Black history, learning your history lets us know.
There you go.
Even at no matter what age you are in. We can have older people in their 60s and finding out because they wasn't taught in school. It ain't like they was teaching it at one point and they stopped. A lot of the things we talk about, they wasn't teaching. Nobody was teaching us about Ida B. Wells and the lynchings and stuff. Billie Holiday. What happened with Billie Holiday? How they had they had it out for her and they told her to stop singing this song. And she was being arrested every time she sang this song.
Wow.
Strange Fruit.
Wow.
You know, and many of us know nothing of it. And they sacrificed. They said, because she knew it was right.
Right.
Billie Holiday knew she was speaking about strange fruit. And she knew those strange fruit was the same people that Ida B. Wells was writing about being lynched. And then the same thing with Claudette Colvin. She knew what she was doing was right. And these adults that was sitting on the bus with her, they didn't help her or stop it or do anything. And then they allowed the whole thing to happen. Some of the stuff that we did, that was an atrocity because we should have used her as the poster child.
Kev, I have a so-called Afrocentric school, and we have flashcards, and our students all have to know at least 100 African Americans and what they did in about 3 minutes or less. And if you were to ask them, most of them can tell you a little bit about each one of those cards. And I think that's important because as I grew up, I didn't get that, man. I may have gotten one or two, and I guess the time was different. But now, what is the excuse now, Kev? What's the excuse now?
We have the information highway at our fingertips. And many of us look at videos, music videos, or we always talk about crabs in a barrel, right? That's what they always say about Black people. They act like crabs in a barrel. But then we sit there and we are enamored with the crabs in the barrel when it happens on with this person talking about all these different comedians and stuff like that. Then it's like, oh, did you hear? They break the internet. The crabs, we are drawn to the crab syndrome. And then we talk about it as if it's something, but we allow it. We love it when our celebrities are doing it. Instead of turning our back on it and saying, nah, brother, this ain't, this ain't the place to do that.
We won't break the internet on everybody putting somebody that was of great importance in our culture and our history to teach us some lessons that they learned, that they dug deep, because we're messy as a people. And a lot of it has to do with just loneliness, because a lot of us are so lonely, Kevin. The older we get, even though we have things, and we gotta do something on this. Loneliness, you have to know how to deal with it, because everyone has a loneliness deal when we go through things, and I get that. But Kevin, a lot of us are suffering from this loneliness, and so we turn to the internet, we turn to comedians, we turn to sports, we turn to music, we turn to all these things because we have nothing inside of us, man. We go to religious institutions, we go to spiritual meetings, we have everything we need, but inside of us, man, we're still lonely, and we don't know how to deal with that loneliness. So instead of trying to say, hey, let me look at some of my ancestors and what they went through, because I know when you're talking about loneliness, they dealt with this, but yet they didn't have their mothers, their father. Your brother was sold, your daddy was sold, but yet they still thrive to be some of the best people to ever live, that walk the face of this earth. And to me, that says a lot about them.
Yeah, loneliness comes from being an individual, feeling like you're alone. If you had unity, you wouldn't feel like you was alone.
Whoa, that was
if you saw somebody that looked like you And this irks me when I go places that's away from, and I speak and I say, "What's up, bro?" Because it's like, "Hey, man, it ain't how you doing, sister," and they put their nose up and keep walking.
What?
Like people expecting us to speak. And then when I come to our side of town, it's like, "Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing, young man? How you doing, sister?" And this is something that that's the glue. The glue bonds. We don't have that type of glue. So everybody's as individuals going about their own life and successes within themselves, and their failures are within themselves. And if everybody moved or saw each other, saw our struggles as one, and we learned what we've been through together, we will appreciate each other. We will applaud people that's making strides, and we will reach out behind us to help people that's struggling and not talk down on them or talk down on somebody because they're making millions of dollars in movies and stuff. And if you have an issue with them, you shouldn't broadcast it on the internet, because their success is our success, regardless.
This has been a great broadcast. I mean, I've done many with this guy, but today this guy was up in the air. I'm glad he was, because he kind of got me up, but it's about the time to wrap it up. But I want to say some final words to you. I'll give it back to Kev and we'll sign off. But I want to say to all of you, take this broadcast, the subject today, serious. Take understanding the role of Black history. This is nothing to play with. I mean, this is who we are. This is what we've been through. This is our experience. This is our gold mine, so to speak. So I'm saying take this information and do something with it personally now, Kev. This is where we give the application, where you go study someone that you didn't know about, and then teach that to someone else. And then listen to the truths that other people teach about our ancestors and those figures before us, in spite of who they are. So let's learn from this Black history. Let this make us better people, because by studying these people, I can honestly say that's why I am the way I am. Because I looked at their lives. I learned from their lives. I know that there's going to be snitches. I know there's going to be letdowns. I know there are going to be great days. But what am I going to do at the end of the day? Am I going to throw in the towel, or am I going to become a person who does not want to be bothered, like many of us do? We get in our feelings and we don't want to be bothered, or because you pissed me off or you said something that's different than what I'm saying, I don't want to be bothered with you. We have to learn how to take that glue that you talked about and unify, because it's not going to get any better until we make it better, Kev. So that's what I want to say. I'll give you the last words and we'll sign off, but we appreciate all you for tuning in and the comments and all that. But take us away, Kev.
All right. And I just want to leave y'all with this. It's a lot of activities going on with Black History Month, and we don't want those activities to end. We want to support people. Get with your friends and family members and say, "Hey, you heard about this happening." Drag people out to these events, support each other. Some people are doing, there's a lot of events going on throughout February, but that should be growing. It shouldn't be where they used to have this here, but it wasn't a lot of turnout, and these things are dying. We need these things to grow. Just being out amongst your people, celebrating your history. Now, that's part of Black history, getting together and acknowledging what we've done, because it ain't just about going and buying, soul food or something like that. You could do that anytime, but take the time to learn something every day, even if it's on the internet. I'm not going to say, well, that doesn't mean anything. Post something, post something that you've learned today, post something that you learned tomorrow, because what you learn, even it may be something that I already know, but the next thing you post, I may say, oh, wow, I didn't know that. And I'm glad that you posted that, so constantly having your mind, elevating our people any way that you can, elevate our people, not listening to the nonsense. Go look at movies together. I know Till was an enormous movie, man. And a lot of people say, oh, I know the Emmett Till story. No, you don't know that story. If you listening to the people that was involved in it and every intricacy that happened, it's just like saying, oh, no, Black people was lynched. But if you listen to Ida B. Wells tell the story of the lynching and what happened, the screams, that's different. That hits you different. You understand differently. So that's what I implore people to do. Get out, get involved in Black history activities, and involve yourself at home. Involve yourself in your family gatherings and stuff like that. Learn about Black history. One thing that Morgan Freeman was remorse about missing, I didn't hear him talk about let's not do Thanksgiving. I didn't hear him say nothing like that, or any of these 4th of July. You know, he didn't say anything, but he's like, but Black History Month is ridiculous.
Wow.
Us celebrating the 4th of July to me is ridiculous.
It's trash.
You know, that's
really,
ridiculous.
Really.
So,
really.
but you're talking about our history, studying our history is being ridiculous. And that was ridiculous. I appreciate everyone that showed up today and all the comments.
All right. On behalf of Kev, I'm Big Brother Jah. We out of here.
Wow.